You can tell that Denis takes a lot of influence between 2001 Space Odyssey and Lawrence of Arabia, and he takes the best elements that work in both of those films. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Isaac Joel, and you're listening to The Critics with Agents of Fandom. And today we're going to be breaking down the latest sci-fi war epic film of the year, Dune Part 2. It seems like not that long ago, I was in theaters watching the first one, experiencing it for the very, very first time. Dune has such a rich backstory with the books, the video games, all of the different adaptations. Denis Villeneuve has become one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. His filmography career has really progressed over the years, and it seems like he just gets better and better. He's one of my favorite writers of all time. He's one of my favorite directors, and he really knows his vision, what it is he's after, and he's dedicated to that vision all the way through, and it truly seems like he is a unstoppable force that should be reckoned with. I don't want to say that I was shockingly surprised at how great this film was, but it is so phenomenal that I was blown away in that theater. It was a real intimate screening we had. We watched this on IMAX, one of the biggest screens they have here in Arizona, and it was phenomenal. It felt like a private screening just for me personally, and so it made the experience that much more amazing and immersive. I was really at the edge of my seat just from the beginning of the film. Now, I loved the first film. I thought it was really, really great and well done as a first film, as something that is really kind of like an exposition tool to bring you inside of the world. The embargo just dropped today, so I don't want to really spoil and get too deep into the film. I really want you guys to kind of go into it completely unaware of what is going to happen, and I think this director has that sense of ability to really progress the story in ways that are unimaginable. He makes a lot of characteristic choices that are complex, and I think the actors and the new additions that they have, everybody coming on board to this sequel, man, he really takes the level up. He takes it to a whole new scale, and that's one of my favorite things about this director, is that he always thinks bigger and bigger. It is clear that he is a massive fan of the sci-fi genre, and he really knows how to bend the worlds together, how to bend different genres and different thematic themes together into one unison story plot line. And I really am blown away at what it is he was able to pull off with this film. I especially loved the visual effects in all of these films. Looking back at the first one and comparing it to this one, it really feels like a beautiful continuation of the saga. And I can't wait to see what it is that they're going to do with part 3. I hope that's the conclusion. I don't really want them to kind of split that up into another part 4, into one of those epic finales where they have to split up the story. I feel like if they go out with a solid trilogy, this will go down as one of the best trilogies of all time. Personally, I think this is Timothée Chalamet at his absolute best. Now, that is an actor that I don't really pay too much attention to. His dramatic roles are a lot better. He's really good at those lower tier films. I was not a fan at all of Wonka. I hate to drag that into this because it really has nothing to do with it, but it came out back to back. They're very close to each other, so I am going to bring it up. I really think that this is a role that he was born to play, Paul, and he really captures the legacy of this character and grows to his full potential. I loved watching and witnessing and experiencing his journey as this possible messiah to the people. You know, some people look at him and believe that he could be the next coming, that he is their savior, and some are speculating against him and don't believe in that. All of the side characters are absolutely phenomenal, from Dave Bautista, Florence Pugh, Christopher Walken. Every single character gives their absolute best. They know that this is a epic story. However, one of my most particular favorite standout roles was from Austin Butler himself. This is another actor that I really just did not care about. I loved him, yeah, sure, in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's a very, very small role, and hey, Quentin Tarantino, how can you ever go wrong with that? But I was not impressed with the whole Elvis film. I've kind of talked a little bit about that here and there on this channel, and it seems to be something that I bring up every so often. You know, the voice, the costumes, the performance, it all just did not blend well together for me. This role that he portrays as one of the villains is one of his all-time best performances. I wouldn't be surprised if he got nominated for an award. I wouldn't be surprised if the visual effects got nominated for an award. I really think that this film in particular deserves a lot of recognition and deserves to be talked about. I'm also very surprised at the runtime. It is, I believe, 6 to 8 minutes shorter than the original first film. That's not really saying much. It still definitely feels its length, and you do feel that pacing. However, I did not want to take my eyes off the screen once. It was an awe-inspiring masterpiece. Every single frame, the detail was magnificent. And this is why I keep mentioning the visual effects, because I did not know at a certain point what was CGI and what was actually real. Now, I do understand, and I've seen a little bit of the behind the scenes on how they comp in both. You know, there is a beautiful, awesome blend of real practicals with the visual effects blended into that. And I think that's amazing. That is something that a lot of studios should be looking after, that this is how you blend together those. You know, a lot of people will talk down about the volume or CGI, green screen, and I do have my own personal gripes with that. I would love to know a lot more about the technology they use to make this film happen. It's unlike anything I've seen before, and I am comparing it to Avatar. It is the detail is phenomenal, from the warships to all of the battleground stuff. You know, you have this sense of size and scale when you're able to kind of look back from the lens and see the little people and the massive buildings and ships and the empire. It is really, really, in scope, one of the biggest films I have ever bared witness to. I caught myself during the film just always leaning forward in my seat, staring at every single detail, knowing that this was made for a reason, that nothing went overlooked. Often at times I'm on this channel complaining about a lot of films that just waste the time of the audience, the crew members, the studio, the budget, everything like that. And I really do have my complaints about that. And this is one of those rare moments of occasion where I'm sitting here with my jaw dropped. It is a direct continuation from the first film. It picks up right where it left off. You are jumped right into the action, and the action is just elevated all the way to the very final act. I did hear Christopher Nolan compare this film to The Empire Strikes Back, and I would definitely have to agree, but in a much, much better sense. At one point in my life, I was the biggest Star Wars fan. I loved how religion played into it. I loved how world history had a factor into all of the characters and the stories and the world building. And I did not have a chance to watch Rebel Moon. I heard a lot of negative reviews compare that to Star Wars, and I don't really love and appreciate when filmmakers just want to be like, hey, I want to make the next Star Wars. I want to do the next Star Wars. It's so redundant. I'm completely over it. I really hate the whole story plot line of, the Empire wants to build this planet destroying weapon, and I appreciate what Dune has done for this genre of sci-fi epic dramas. It really does show that you can ground it. Hans Zimmer has done it again with this soundtrack. I highly recommend that you find the biggest surround system that you can and watch this on the biggest screen possible. It is made 100% for IMAX. I watched the first movie at home, and it is not the same experience that you will get when you see it in theaters, when you have the full tall image and you can see the actual sandworms, you can see all of the explosions, every single frame and detail, I'm telling you, in this film is really, really worth the ticket of admission price. You can tell that Denis takes a lot of influence between 2001: Space Odyssey and Lawrence of Arabia, and he takes the best elements that work in both of those films and brings them together in this. There were shots of a fetus, of a baby, that really reminded me a lot of the shots in Oppenheimer, where he's seeing these visions and dimensions inside his head and in real life. And I know that they used actual practical effects on set to capture that. That's a whole other conversation. But the CGI, I'm telling you, in this film, especially when it comes to the fetus, to the baby that is growing, it is unlike anything I've ever seen before. It reminded me a lot of 2001: Space Odyssey, but in such a beautiful, poetic, spiritual way. I really love the spiritual aspects that they are using, drawing in comparisons between the Messiah and Jesus Christ, and how Paul is essentially the second coming and the one that is supposed to free all the people. Now, this is a story that's been told time and time again through Neo, The Matrix, but it is really a classic hero's journey that Denis Villeneuve has perfected. I give this film a 10 out of 10. I highly recommend that you go see it immediately on the first day it comes out. Very curious to know what your thoughts are. Let me know in the comments below or tweet at me at It's Isaac Joel, and let's talk all about Dune Part 2. As always, I have been your host, Isaac Joel, with the critics at Agents of Fandom. Thank you for listening. I'll catch you next time.